You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again for episode 2A of your bi-weekly options extravaganza known far and wide around the globe as the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Always put on the. It's all sorts of fun. Theoptionsinsider.com is the place to go, of course, from the network as well, upon which so many of you are binging. You've heard me say it already. Yet another record month here for the network. Thanks to all of you out there who are continuing to drive up my bandwidth bills. We love you all. If you're on the on-demand side, then, of course, keep rating and reviewing if you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, hey, I guess just keep your hands to yourself. No ratings. But if you like what you hear, keep rating and reviewing. It does help all the new folk continue to discover the shows. Of course, if you want to go above and beyond, join us live for this show to heckle my co-hosts here. Never me, only the co-hosts. And then, of course, if you want to get access to our great pro Q&As, we had Scott Nations joining us earlier this week, taking on all comers in the hot seat. That's always fun. Tomorrow, we got options oddities coming up, got giveaways going on, all sorts of fun stuff. TheOptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Of course, no live streams yesterday. Listeners, I hope you guys enjoyed the special live to tape edition we did of Options Bootcamp from that mastermind event. That was fun. I got to check out the new SIBO digs. Didn't see the floor, but got to see the new offices. They're kind of interesting. Not much nicer, shall we say, than the old digs. And they're right down the street here from the studio. So I think SIBO just missed us. They wanted to move a little bit closer to us here in the studio. And mission accomplished there. And let's see who else missed us on the old program today. Let's go around the horn. Let's start in the land that is always dark and stormy and was once the number one options mecca in the country, at least according to Google Trends. These days, not so much. It has fallen off. Of course, we're talking about the dark and stormy shores of Maine, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, how goes it in the once options mecca, sir?
The once option mecca is doing well, and I have to say, it has been dark and stormy to type. So your moniker for Maine is apt. You're descriptive. It's like that movie Rebecca with Orson Welles.
I just
dark
have to,
and stormy on the coast.
Just have to speak the words and it comes to fruition, sir. That's the power of the network. And I've also described it as a quiet and tranquil hamlet. And lo and behold, that is the case as well. We're talking about St. Charles, where we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show. How goes the quiet and tranquil hamlet, sir?
Very quiet, very tranquil. Gotta love it. St. Charles, Illinois, the greatest city on earth.
There you go, listeners. Once dark and stormy, once quiet and tranquil. I'll let you choose what you prefer as you keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for The Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to The Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading, what the heck is trending out here. Another one of these days, listeners, where the markets are kind of having a hard time getting out of their own way. The S&P is kind of almost literally unched after selling off earlier in the session, then trying to rally, trying to get back to that ever elusive 4,300 level. I think got up to about 4,286 or so, then came right back down. About 20 handles, now trying to rally again. We're kind of unched literally right now as we speak. We see the NASDAQ up ever so slightly, about 0.1%, and the Dow off about 0.33%. So it's one of those weird days. The market struggling to find its footing after having a couple of interesting days when the markets have been buffeted hither and yon out there by good news and bad news. Are we rallying? Are we selling off? Do we buy this rally? Is this kind of is it overbought now? Is this a bit of a dead cat bounce? Is this just the pause before the next leg up? All these debates weighing on the market right now. It means coming into showtime, our old friend VIX Cash kind of reflecting that. It was literally unched when we kicked off the show from where we were on Monday. It was about exactly a 20 handle. Again, that is pretty much literally unched from where we were on Monday's show. VVIX 87 down a whopping 1 point from where it was on Monday's show. VXX, who knows what's going on with this product anymore. Right now, it happens to be down 0.3 to 21 even. So read into that what you will. UVXY 880, literally unched from Monday's show yet again. SVIX 1410 when we kicked off the show. That's up a whopping 1/10 of a point. UVIX 860 down a 1/10 of a point. So UVXY and UVIX, they were hanging out at close to the same level on Monday. Now they are a whopping 0.2 of a point apart. Which would you rather have right now, listeners? And VolQ, a.k.a. the product that our guest on the Pro Q&A created from Tuesday, 23 3/4, up about 1/4 of a point. All that a long way around to saying a whole heck of a lot of nothing right now on the screens. Let's head out to our compatriots to see if they can add a little bit more color. Let's go out to the quiet and tranquil hamlet first, because these are kind of quiet and tranquil markets. Uncle Mike, sir, what you got in store for us today?
Well, 4,300 seems to continue to be the key number. We have just a lot going on. I shouldn't say a lot going on, but we have a lot of things to talk about, I think. We have Bed Bath & Beyond, of course, seems to be the story of the day that everyone's talking about. And could that be the next meme? That's the debate, but that's something that's definitely may or may not be a meme, but it's definitely a mover, that's for sure. So watching that, also watching just the 10-year and how we're having a little bit of an uptick today. Nothing too major, but we still seem to be going to the level to where the 10-year seems to be normal again, in that we're not going down a lot. Whatever expectation there is for the Fed, it appears to be put into play. So it seems and feels like it's somewhat more normal. But in this day and age, what the heck is normal anyway? In terms of some other things, we do have a little bit of a rally in energy. That's not surprising, with crude just going over the 90 mark again. Or just as I literally say this, it just went over the 90 mark. Not a ton of movement today in natural gas, but we are getting 2% move in crude oil. And let's see, how do I put this delicately and eloquently? Bitcoin still sucks. And so from there, that's what I'm reading today. That's what I'm seeing. We still have a VIX below 20, and that's what's going on in the eyes of Uncle Mike.
We got to get Uncle Mike on the crypto show. What do you say? We'll have a debate, point, counterpoint, you and some of our crypto guests, some of whom are, shall we say, hardcore in the crypto space. And you, too, can air your views on the crypto space. What do you think, Uncle Mike? Point, counterpoint on crypto.
I think that would be kind of like Roddy Piper going in back in the old days when I'd be treated like Roddy Piper was in his early days of his wrestling career, probably. But if you want to do it, I'm up for it. But I don't know about the hate mail, though. You're probably you'd get hate mail by association for just having me on the show.
Yeah, you would kind of be persona non grata on that show, I do think. But it would make for intriguing listening. So we shall see. We'll find someone super hardcore, super knee deep in the weeds. I mean, I like crypto. I'm interested in it. I do trade it, but I'm not super hardcore. Some people out there are super hardcore. We'll get one of those, get Uncle Mike. We'll let the dust settle. Let the chips fall where they may, listeners. Place your bets. Uncle Mike versus Crypto Hardcore. Coming soon to the Crypto Rundown. Let's go out. Speaking of a guy who just loves himself some crypto, can't get enough. It's the Rock Lobster. If I'm talking to him in between shows, chances are he's slinging some ETH, maybe some Solana, maybe even getting a little bit of Avalanche out there. You can't get enough, Mr. Rock Lobster. I'm glad to see you paused your crypto buying to come join us on the show. What's lighting up your tape today, sir?
Well, I guess, I know there's plenty of people that have made money in crypto.
It can be done. It can happen.
It was never, I did one, I closed, I think I lost 50 cents on a couple of BITO call butterflies, and that was about it. It wasn't going up anymore. I'm like, okay, no, I'm done with this. So, actually, because it was a very inexpensive call calendar, so I ended up losing like $50 on the trade, and after that, I was like, okay, and that was pretty much the top. So I feel like I killed it in December. I feel like that was my because the upside calls were so big. The calendar was super cheap, so you could do a lot of calendars for not a lot of money, but it didn't go up anyway. So anyway, be that as it may, that was my adventure into crypto. Although if I would have done my normal hedging routine, I probably it would have been a home run, because I would have bought a couple of puts against all those flies, and the puts would have paid me a ton of money. So the crypto universe, it's what I still don't get it, but people seem to think all these, so if you can basically create a currency out of thin air, and then all of a sudden it's supposed to have some value, I don't know. I question that a little bit, but maybe other people think that it will work. As far as the market we have now, I think the Fed released some minutes yesterday, and they said, well, the economy looks like it's slowing down, but inflation's still pretty solid. So besides, I think there was some CPI index numbers that were bandied about, that the rate of change of inflation was 0, and there was a little bit of word salad around inflation numbers. They're still 8.5% higher than they were last year. And that number does not look like it's going down and significantly. So I believe that's still, and then if this rate holds next year, inflation will be another 8.5%. So I don't see how we don't have any inflation. It's just not going up as fast as it was. So that apparently is the Fed's dilemma. And historically, the 2 times they have raised, they're going to keep raising until it goes down. And at this point, it's 0.75 of a point per month. I don't know what they're taking their time for. Maybe because they're figuring the softening economy will slows things down. Although I have seen, gas prices are definitely, I would say 25% lower than they were. So they've come off quite a bit. Car prices are a little lower. It looks like housing prices are start to go lower, but there's definitely housing starts. So there's lots of data pulling things down. So in the short term, we're literally, the SPX is back to where it was when the Fed said, hey, we're going to raise rates aggressively to combat inflation. So literally, SPX is back where it was, and VIX is back where it was. And it was almost like April, May, June, July, never happened. We never traded 3,700. It was all a big facade. So I think, and that's where we sit now until there is something to push stocks the other way. Apparently, grain prices are down to pre-invasion levels globally. So there's definitely some positive things going on. But as far as from a market point of view, if you're looking for a catalyst here, I think we need a little bit more positive catalyst. I don't think the Inflation Reduction Act was necessarily a huge positive catalyst. Probably good for, the certain sectors that are going to benefit from it. Some green energy, solar. I guess the IRS is going to do pretty well. but it didn't do much as far as the stock market goes. And they're going to spend about $750 billion. So there wasn't a lot of return that way. So if you're looking for the government to provide more impetus to the market, it doesn't look like, at least in the short term, it's going to be there. As far as stocks go, we're just through the earnings cycle, and this is usually kind of this end of August into September, a little doldrumy time. Definitely historically, the market kind of sells off because, people are out here getting ready for school, all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of seasonal factors. I mean, but as of right now, there's just not a lot. It's sort of, back to the past, and then we see where we go. I just don't see any short-term catalysts that are enough to kind of really propel stocks a ton higher from this point, because we're kind of back to where we were before the Fed announced their rate hike. So we're not going to see anything from them until end of September. And then we have a CPI number, I guess, coming, beginning of September.
That's your broker with a margin call, so you might want to take that, huh?
Yeah, no, it was my partner there. Nobody ever looks at my schedule to see that I've got stuff going on pretty much all day, every day. But that's okay. And last thing I'd say is crazy contango for VIX. It's the steepest we've had in a while. It's crazy steep, actually. So the front end of vol has come way down into the teens, and the back end of vol is higher, and you get that kind of forward vol effect. And so it's sort of but there clearly is not large sellers of the back month in vol. So that is another, the liquidity providers don't need to take it down because nobody's selling it. So they're letting the front end fall to the floor. Maybe people are getting a little more bold, selling short-term options. But that's what we have. So I don't expect, if I start seeing that back end of the curve come down, that'd be a different story. If there's actually real vol sellers there, but we haven't seen that. I would say not hugely yet.
Yeah, someone was asking me yesterday at that live event we did, what I thought about the S&P, and I mentioned a few things that gave me reservation at these levels, and one of the key things is, you're right, that steep, super steep VIX curve. People are pricing in a lot of vol going out, not just into the election, which you expect, but beyond into the end of the year and even into next year. That gives me a little bit of reticence out there. They're pricing in a lot of vol for some interesting reasons, and dissecting why is kind of the name of the game right now. Let's see what the name of the game is from a volume perspective right now. Since we're talking VIX, let's start there. VIX is kind of shrugging its shoulders today. This looks like the kind of numbers you would expect from a day in the middle of August, which is exactly where we are, listeners. 166,000 contracts on the tape. So a whole heck of a lot of nothing, really. The ADV 433 doesn't seem like it's on track to hit that today, but who knows? The second half of the day could be a banger. SPY 2.8 million, looking a little bit more robust. Still not close to not at half the ADV yet. The ADV 6.33 million out there. The S looking a little bit more robust of the three, 1.3 million for the S. That's actually pretty decent paper for right now. The ADV 2.1 million out there. So some stuff going up in the S. Small caps looking pretty active as well, over half of their ADV already. 396,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV 741. If you want more small caps and a whole bunch of other fun stuff, be talking about those in a little over an hour on TWIFO. My producers tell me the once and future, not present Dr. Bix has sorted out his issues, so he will be on the show this week, lest he face the wrath of our producers. So we shall see. Don't hold me to it. But that's the rumor that he'll be joining us. We'll see if the Skype gods smile upon him in about an hour. And the Qs, 1.14 million. The ADV, about 2.5 million out. Let's get out to the most active single names. Let's see what kind of day we're having out there. And actually, this is a pretty active day. This does not look like a day in the middle of August like it did when we're looking at VIX out there. Let's start in the old Googles, a.k.a. Alphabet. That's our number 10 this week. 228,000 contracts on the tape. So that's nothing to sneeze at in terms of what it costs to break into the top 10 most actives today. Usually a day like today, mid-August, you might expect a similar number to what we're seeing in VIX right now, about 160,000. But no, we're getting 228. That's respectable. That gets us to Alphabet. It's up about 0.5%, or right around 120.25 right now is where it's trading. Number 9, Uncle Mike's nemesis returns yet again. It is Cisco. Cisco, 232,000 contracts, up about 6% or 49.5 bucks is where it's trading right now, up nearly $3 on the day. Number 8, the artist formerly known as Facebook. Yep, it's Meta, 242,000 contracts on the tape. It's kind of unched today, hanging out at about 175 right now. Looks like they came for it earlier. It got down to 172. Then it rallied all the way up to nearly about 175.5, and now it's hanging out right around 175. So interesting day so far for Meta, even if right now it is kind of unched. Then we got the Symbol Twins back in action and neck yet again. Number 7, AMC. How are the memes hanging out? They are at 355,000 contracts, listeners. So the memes are not playing today. AMC off $1.50 or about 7.25%, hanging out right around 1980 right now. Coming off, let's see, what was its high recently? It got up to 2604 on Tuesday, and it was even higher than that to start the week. You got up to, yeah, it looks like it was higher to start the week, so about almost 27 right now. Not feeling as robust. Number 6, right behind it, the other half of the Symbol Twins out there. We have AMD, 403,000 contracts. That's trading right around $100.50, up about 230 or about 2.3%. The math is easy when it's trading right around 100, listeners. Let's go to number 5. It's NVIDIA, 415,000 contracts on the tape for good old NVIDIA. And it's also hanging out right about where it normally is, right around the number 4 to 5 spot. You'll see today it is up $4.50 or 2.4%, 187, almost 188. So a nice little pop here for NVIDIA today. Number 4, we got the Amazonians. They are back. They're at 420,000. Someone tell Elon Musk it's his favorite number. Also trading 142.40 out there right now. So a nice little run out there for Amazon over the past month, up 25%. It was threatening the 100 handle not too long ago and got down to 102 on 103.67. No, 102.13 on June 14th before rallying a nice 40 handles from there. Nice little run for Amazon. Number 3, we've got the old Tesla when he's not busy pumping, dumping Man United. He's over here at Tesla. Today it's up a whopping $1.85 or nearly 914 is where it's trading right now. So kind of unched on the day, but good enough for 684,000 contracts. Number 2, yes, I said number 2. It's the fruit company, 904,000 contracts. So a pretty active day for Apple, all things considered. Not the most active, but not nothing either. It's kind of unched on the day after kind of bouncing off between the 173.5 to 174.5. It bounced that way a couple of times today before kind of settling out right around 174.40 right now. Again, good for 900,000 contracts. But it's what Uncle Mike mentioned earlier that is dominating the tape today. It is Bed Bath & Beyond. Are the memes back? BBBY would have you think yes, with 1.06 million contracts on the tape out there right now. $18.12 is where it's trading, off nearly $5 or 21.5%. You know, I was eyeballing some put flies out there yesterday, and I had ended up they weren't lining up the way I wanted, but they were looking pretty nice. And then I had to go off and do that live event, and now here it has moved. See the literal cost I pay, listeners, for doing content for you folks. I miss great trades, but this one seemed like a screaming no-brainer out here. $5. Does it have more to go? I guess we shall find out there as we keep on rolling. Let's see what's lighting it up from an earnings vol perspective. Still a pretty hot week. Tuesday, we had Walmart and Home Depot. Wednesday, Target, Lowe's, and Krispy Kreme. Today, we have Kohl's, BJ's, and AMAT. Tomorrow, we have John Deere and Foot Locker. Luckily for you folks, because we like you, hot off the presses from our friends over there at Oratz, we have the earnings move results, earnings move, earnings season, and earnings trades reports. Yes, 4 reports. Count them, 4. All for free because we like you folks. Let's look at the earnings move results right now. That's telling you what's breaking right now. What are the hot earnings developments popping off this morning? We got Cisco, again, Uncle Mike's nemesis here. August 17th after the bell is when they were popping off, listeners. So yesterday after the bell, 46.66 is where they were going into their announcement. They're pricing in 5.2%. They delivered 6.4%, so a little bit of outperformance, about 23% outperformance, listeners, compared to what they were pricing in. BJ's, so going on to the wholesale club market, they were this morning before the bell. They were at 69.13 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 7.7%. They delivered a whopping 7.8%. So I guess the market makers knew what they were doing out there. We also got everyone's favorite, Wolf. This was yesterday after the bell, a.k.a. this is Wolf Speed Inc., developer of wide band gap semiconductors. They were yesterday after the bell. That's like the ticker. Rock Lobster's right. I do like a good ticker, and I like Wolf. 85.65 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 10.2%. Get this, listeners. They delivered 25.6%. They were trading at almost 108 as of the time we ran this report. They're actually almost at 111 right now, up nearly 30%. So Wolf Speed is moving at light speed right now. Does that have some meme characteristics to it? Name you never really heard of before, popping nearly 30%, doing some decent numbers. That feels kind of memey. I'll have to look at the vol, but I'm guessing it's a little bit juicy out there right now. So intriguing stuff. You guys fans of Wolf Speed Inc.? Hit us up. Let us know. Let's get out to some of the other names that are popping off later this week. AMAT after the bell today. 106 even is where they were trading. They're pricing in $5 even. How nice of them. All even round numbers. In the past, they've moved $4.11. So a little bit of earnings premium there. Stone Cold, our old friend Stone Cold. They're today after the bell as well. 11 3/4 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $1.50. In the past, they've moved about $1.70. So actually a little bit less juice for Stone Cold. Let's go out to Dick's Sporting Goods there. Well, before we get there, because that's all the way to next week. We can hold on to them for next week. Let's go out to Foot Locker tomorrow, 19th before the bell. 32.5 is where they were trading. How much shoe vol is there? Let's find out. They're pricing in $3.36. In the past, they've moved a whopping $2.94. So a little bit extra juice. Tractor vol. Let's go to John Deere. They're tomorrow before the bell as well. 364.70 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $17. In the past, they've moved $17.81. You might think there'd be a little bit more vol in tractor land, given all the volatility we're seeing in ags and in inputs and everything like that. But apparently a little bit less vol is the order of the day right now in John Deere. So intriguing stuff. If you guys want to see that for yourselves, including all the stuff that's coming up next week, listeners, we've got the Dick's Sporting Goods. We've got Intuit. We've got NVIDIA. We've got Snowflake. What's up with that formerly hot IPO? You can go see for yourselves. Dell, Marvell, a whole dozens of tickers popping off next week, listeners. Also, the earnings season report. Matt was on with me on the advisor's option earlier this week. He said they kind of adjusted how they measure the actual versus implied move, which is why we're seeing a little bit more green this cycle versus last. Week 1 and week 2, 93%. Week 3, 113%. Week 4, just an amazing 133%. Week 5, 120%. All that averaging out to 110%. That is extremely bullish compared to what we've seen in the past, which is an average of about 86% per cycle since the start of the pandemic. So that's looking pretty optimistic. If you want to see that for yourselves, you know where to go. It's like no, I take it back. There is a new trade going up today. They are looks like they are getting a long straddle today, entering a long straddle in Navigator Holdings, Inc. So add that to the list of nearly 90 long straddles and 62 long calendars that we are tracking for your trading pleasure, listeners over there. All 4 of those reports completely for free. TheOptionsInsider.com, because we like you folks. Meanwhile, we got to keep on rolling. It is time to get weird. It is time to get wild, at least weirder and wilder than we usually are. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
Welcome to the Odd Block, listeners, a portion of the show where we unleash the beast, a.k.a. the Eye of Sauron, and tell you what is fixated his gaze on today. Mr. Rock Lobster, our chat is appreciating you. I like this. That's what I was chuckling at. They said the 80s called. They want their rotary phone back. They're talking about your phone ringing from earlier, sir. They said you are the hero we need, not the hero we deserve. It did have a distinctive old school ring to it. I will say that. I could see you picking up the handset, putting it to your head, and then going 1 and letting it count down, and then 7, and it counts all the way. Is that one of those old school rotary phones, sir?
Well, it's the old school rotary phone sound. I mean, don't you remember though when you were a kid, you grab that old school phone and you get like tied up in the cord, you know?
Oh yeah,
they were all out of whack.
They were fantastic. Yes, great for choking yourself if that's what you want.
Yes. You know what? I'll bet you not very many kids choked themselves to death back in the old days because they were smarter than that. They're like, maybe this won't work for me. Maybe it won't work for me.
Yes. So
but anyway, yes, that's I like the listeners to think that I have an old-fashioned rotary phone. So we'll just keep that that dream alive.
It does fit with the Rock Lobster branding. I will say that. So it is in keeping.
It's on brand.
Yes.
It's on brand.
It's very much on brand. Let's see if our trades are on brand today. Uncle Mike, I apologize. It's kind of like a trifecta of Cisco today. So if you want to go elsewhere or just storm off the show and protest Uncle Mike, I will understand. I will understand because we got Cisco back again. If you're one of our newer listeners, maybe we'll have to have Uncle Mike explain his deep reticence for Cisco. Perhaps later on the show today we can do that. But so right now we've got more Cisco on the docket for us today, listeners. Of course, ticker symbol CSCO. Having a good day. I just broke them down earlier in the earnings volatility report there. They're trading 49 and about a half right now, up about 2 3/4 or nearly 6%. Let's see. On the year, a year ago, they were trading 55.15. So they're still down about 10% on the year, even with this pop. And then they rallied all the way up to about 64, actually 64 and a quarter. That was on December 29th. And then it was pretty much straight down, they got down to $50 on May 17th, and they fell off a cliff. They went from $50 down to about 41 on May 19th. So obviously some bad earnings afoot there in that cycle. And then ever since then, looks like they hit 40.82 on that day. And ever since then, they've been kind of slowly rebounding and making their way back, including a nice pop from about $45 on August 8th, up to including today's nice pop. They're up to nearly $50. So they hit 50 exactly today, 50.00 before retreating off of it today. So intriguing stuff. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out there. We haven't gone out to Cisco in a while for obvious reasons. Don't want to offend the tender sensibilities of Uncle Mike. But let's see. What did our Eye of Sauron find out there today? Oh, pretty sizable print. We got 20,000 of the D's doubles, aka the D's 55 calls, going up for a nice juicy 81 cents. This is a 22 vol. So again, that's not meme stock vol. It's not 100 or 200. But I guess for Cisco 22, not nothing. Getting 81 cents at the end of the day, so you can't sneeze at that. This was someone coming in after the earnings announcement and just blasting away on what vol remained. They said, you know what? I like my stock. I like the number. I like today's pop. If it keeps rallying up to 55 by December, I will happily dump my stock. In the meantime, I will take a nice 81 cents to do so. So not bad, not terrible. We don't hate this one. Actually, I take it back. There's another announcement within this cycle all the way through to December. So they actually have a second earnings baked in here on November 16th. So they're dealing with two cycles here for this 81 cents, which is kind of interesting, kind of intriguing. Maybe I like the 81 cents a little bit less in hindsight now that I see that there is another cycle baked in there. But still, it's not 11 cents. You can't hate it that much. Mr. Rock Lobster, what do you think? Somebody may be saying this far but no farther for Cisco to the upside. And if it goes there, they don't mind dumping a whole bunch of stocks, sir.
Well, Cisco is one of those ones that just, it has these rallies and it just kind of goes to die. For as big a company it is that actually it does have some revenue growth. I guess everybody's all feeling burnt from, the late 2000 or the, 2000, 2001. I think when it went from 80 to $16 or something like that. But I think call buying is a rough. I'll make it easy. I like the buy ride. I think it's a decent idea in Cisco. So I'm figuring this is a covered call, and it probably should work fine. Would be my guess at this point. Nothing super fancy, but it just goes to show you that they're more than happy with a little bit over 1.5% on just the call premium till December in that stock. So, it'll pay, what is that? $220,000 is $1.6 million. So that'll pay some bills. That will definitely pay some bills.
That's more than a few of your proverbial girlfriend's Ferraris, sir. So by that metric, it's pretty good.
Is that meme kid is moving from what did he squeeze everybody in BBY, and now he's taking all his money and moving into Cisco.
Taking all his money and dumping some Cisco calls, because what's hotter with the kids than Cisco Systems, I ask you? Hot name on the talk right now. Reddit can't get enough. Cisco Systems. Let's see if we can find another hot name for you listeners out there. You guys want some old school, maybe a little bit closer to meme style paper, maybe we got you covered here. Let's go out to TECK Resources Limited, Class B. Ticker symbol TECK, T-E-C-K. This is TECK. This was TECK Kaminko until about a decade ago. This is a natural resources company out of Vancouver, BC. Beautiful area up there. Ticker symbol TECK, T-E-C-K. Trading right now, $34.62, up about almost half a buck, or about 1.25% today. On the year, let's see, a year ago it was trading $21.71. Around that time, they got down to their low for the year of $19.32. So they were pretty much at their nadir about exactly a year ago. And then ever since then, it's been pretty much straight up with a little bit of a dalliance. They hit their high for the year. Guess when, listeners? Not June 8th. June 8th adjacent. June 7th. They hit $45.90. Then it's like someone just let the air out of the balloon right after that. So June 8th comes along and see you later. They got down to $25.73 on July 14th. So a month later, they were substantially lighter. And they hovered there for a while, it's like until the beginning of August, and they started shooting back up again. And right now they're back to where they are, mid-30s again. $34.63. Let's see. They're engaged in mining for coal, which is a hot one right now. Obviously, people can't get energy in a lot of areas. So they're actually bidding up other alternative sources like coal. And so that probably makes things a little bit rosier here for names like TECK Resources. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. Maybe folks are still feeling that love out there. Are they dumping a bunch of it? Let's find out. Looks like we've got some SEP 37s. So about almost a little less than $2.50 out of the money calls at this point, going up 5,800 times for a buck. Looks like paper pretty much paid a buck for these. There was a 48 vol. So buying calls on a name that's had a decent little pop, that's kind of meme related. It's not really a heavily, I'll have to go check the short interest, but it doesn't seem like it's a heavily shorted name. So I might miss that criteria. Also the vol 48, not quite triple digit. So not quite meme level vol, but it's still pretty rich. Certainly more than double what we just saw in Cisco. So that's certainly a decent amount of juice. The stock was pretty much right here when these went up. So this Mr. Rock Lobster, you're just talking about how you don't like buying upside calls, how it's a hard trade. Well, let's explain that to our friend here in TECK who really loved nearly 6,000 of the SEP 37 so much that he paid a buck for them, sir.
Yeah, what is today the all commodity stocks go up day today? Like
apparently, TECK, didn't you get the memo? I got the memo before the open.
Yes, I guess they all got them. So oil stocks, Exxon, Swan. So BTU just taking off. There was a lot of flow in BTU. I mean, it's up 11% today. So apparently, I guess coal's good enough for China. So the Chinese are taking whatever money they have and they're buying coal with it.
Who needs to breathe?
Yeah, it's overrated. So apparently that's where the money's going. And TECK actually, was probably $10-15 higher when everybody was worried about commodities in April. So I don't hate these calls, but it is, I would say, an aggressive. They're looking for a run to 40, something like that, probably, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility. But again, all these commodity companies are making pretty huge money, so I think this is a reasonable call buy, considering, but aggressive call buy, buying out of money calls in here.
Yeah, not the craziest trade we've certainly seen. It's certainly compared to a lot of the meme names we've seen that's more reasonable, but it is a pretty aggressive trade nonetheless. We'll keep an eye on this one. You like this one, listeners? You're a fan of calls in coal for TECK? Hit us up. Let us know. How about we end this segment with a kiss, listeners? In particular, Kohl's Corp, ticker symbol KISS, KSS. Kohl's. I don't need to explain to you what it is. $31.85 is where it's trading right now. A year ago, it was trading $51.85. So obviously, they've come up under some pressure off 38% on the year. And then they've kind of had they look like they had a nice little range-bound period. They got up to 60 in August and then sold off down to 45 in October, back up to almost 60 in November, back down to about 46 in December. So they had a nice little range. Then they shot up in January 21st. It went from $46 up to 63, almost 64. So they had a nice pop. Earnings, M&A, maybe a little bit of both out there, whatever was driving that pop. It was a nice little pop there in January. They hung out at that new level for a while until about May, and they started coming off it again. May 5th, they were $57, and by May 24th, they were $36. Looks like the bloom came off the rose pretty hard there. They tried to rally it again June 9th this time, not June 8th. They hit $46.60, and that was pretty much all she wrote for them. They sold off hard after that, got down to about $27. That was, it looks like they hit actually $26. That was their low for the year in mid-July. They've had a little bit of a resurgence since then, up about $5 or so, but nowhere near the levels they hit earlier this year, just in April, about $64. So an interesting year. Looks like a tale of a couple of different years packed in here for coal. It's a nice range-bound period for the first kind of half of the year. Then they shot up, hung out there for a while, then kind of giving it up now over the last couple of months. But it looks like somebody is maybe thinking there's more upside to come here. Maybe getting a little memey here in coals. Someone looks like they were scooping this morning 3,000 of the AUG 33s. They paid nearly 50 cents for these, 49.8 cents. Obviously, they traded through the offer. These are 40 at 48. They got them done for nearly 50, so they had to go a little ways to get these done. That is a 105 vol, if you are intrigued, listeners. So it meets our first meme criteria, which is got to be triple digits vol. It's also call buying, so that's a second criteria. That's 2 for 2 right there. Looks like they just had earnings. Stock was higher when they bought these too. Well, that's a whammy for the Rock Lobster. 32.25 was the stock when they bought these calls. So they're wearing it to the tune of about 60 odd cents in the stock right now. So already paying through the nose, paying through the offer, and then the stock trends against you. That's never a good start to your trade, Mr. Rock Lobster. But they've got a whopping, these are AUGs. So they've got till tomorrow, Mr. Rock Lobster, for the big turnaround. I don't know about this one, sir. What say you?
It doesn't appear promising. I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. I'm just going to say this. I mean, I as I recall, like Kohl's this was a stock somebody wanted to pay $60 for, or $65.
Yeah, there was some M&As, I recall. Earlier this year. Yeah,
like this was a real takeover value, and it has not lived up to the. It's probably a good value stock at this point, but I guess it's pretty rough buying out of the money calls is the only thing I would think of right now. So, unfortunately, it's just not. It's not doing it.
Yeah, they're going to be wearing it on these. Looks like they got a whopping one day, so maybe we'll find out tomorrow on options oddities if these Kohl's calls pay off. But I'm going to go out on a limb, listeners, and say probably not. Again, you never know, but they always have that time that they paid through the nose for nearly 50 cents for, but not looking good right now. Let's see if our question of the week is looking good. It is time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, everybody. Let's do it. Let's get to the mail block, the portion of the show where you guys take the reins, your questions, your comments, your insights, your pearls of wisdom. We also shine that light back on you sometimes with our question of the week. Like we're doing right now, our question of the week is VIX is back below 20. At least it was when we posted this. It's kind of hanging out right at 20 right about now. Is this the beginning of a new volatility regime or just a blip on the radar? Quite simply, will VIX still be below 20 at the end of Q3, which, if you can't do the calendar math, listeners, is the end of September. Let's go out now to the quiet Hamlet. He's been sulking over there because we've been talking so much about Cisco. Uncle Mike, I apologize. That's just the way the chips fell today. But what say you about our question of the week this week, listeners? Or do you think VIX will be back below 20 by the end of Q3? And then what do you think our audience is voting for?
Well, in terms of Cisco, nothing happens by accident, Mark Longo. I don't believe that for a second. In terms of our audience, do I think it's going to be below 20 by the end of Q3? Well, it is below 20 today. So I think that ultimately we're at this is very much a fork in the road type of market. And we could go either way at this point for the short term, 4,300 being the key number. We have the VIX at 20. I will say that we will either be at 16 or 27. And that's about as good as I can give you. I will not say which one, but I can see 16 or 27.
That's the old Uncle Mike 49% guarantee out there. 16 to 27. That's Uncle Mike's range. You like that? You're in that range, listeners? Let us know as we go out to the Rock Lobster, sir. What do you think? We're hanging out just a wee bit shy of 20 right now, Mr. Rock Lobster. You think we'll still be hanging out in this range end of September, or something else afoot? And then what do you think our audience is voting for?
I'm going to say we will be below 20 at the end of September, just because you've got timing on all the Fed announcements and everything else. So whatever crappy news will come out will most likely be settled by then. So I'm gonna say below 20. And the audience, what is the audience saying? I'm gonna say actually a little contrarian. I think the audience is not liking this, and nobody believes the rally, so they're gonna say we're gonna be above 20 at the end of September.
Well, you are correct on that one. Our audience is kind of fading this rally, has been doing so for some time. They are saying no. 67.8% of you say no, we will not be below 20 at the end of September. Yes, 17.8%. And VIX is confusing, getting 14.4% of the votes right now. Get over there at options. We just pinned it for you to make it a little bit easier for you guys to find. We put out a lot of content, I get it. So if you can't find the poll when you get over there, just scroll down a bit, but we try to pin it for you every now and then too, so you folks can find it out there. Let's get out some of your questions. Let's go to, what's this question? Question is from DPH. They want to know, what's the latest on Vroom? Is there still crazy call paper every day? Well, let's pull it up and find out there, DPH. Vroom, of course, is Vroom Inc. This is kind of the online automotive name we've talked about a bunch of times on this show and on Options Oddities. It was a hot name. People were selling some puts in it for a while. I think around the 2.5 strike, it dipped below that level, got down to about $1. Had quite the resurgence. We were talking, I think it was on Oddities for a lot of our listeners. If you got some stock, maybe selling some of those covered calls is the way to go. And it looks like a lot of you did, which is good because the stock did retrace for a bit. It's back to about 210 now, so it looks like it has regained some of that momentum. Let's see what's lighting it up out there today. Who is this? DPH. We've got a whopping 1,150 of the 2 calls going up, expiring tomorrow. That's the big trade out there today. It's like someone buying 500 of those. Now, again, this strike has been kind of active, so it's kind of hard to tell if this is opening or closing. I don't know if I would call the 2 calls a crazy frenzy of call paper out there. That's kind of more along the lines of what I expect. It's at the money. We've got a whopping 300 lots of the SEPs going up out there as well. Let's look at yesterday and see if there's any more activity out there in good old Vroom. It's like people dumping a bunch of longer term calls yesterday. Some folks may be getting the memo, wanting to sell those covered calls. This time going out to Jan. Looks like about 1,500 of the Jan 2s. Paper dumping those for 80 cents. Jan 2s. Those were, let's see, the stock at the time was 2.25. So these were in the money calls. I don't love that. There were better levels earlier. You could have sold the 2.5s or even the 3s closer, I think like September, and gotten a good chunk of that change and out of the money. So you get a little appreciation with the stock there too. But if you want to just clip all your upside for 80 cents, I guess that's a decent chunk of a stock that's around $2. So percentage wise is not bad. It's like SEP2 is also trading. So yeah, it hasn't come up on our scans in about a week or so, DPTH. So it hasn't been lighting it up. I think part of that is because the stock has kind of just retreated a little bit after that nice pop. Let's look really quickly at the saga over the stock. I typed in your handle, listeners. I didn't type in. I don't want DPTH stock. I want Vroom stock. There we go. All right. Yeah, it got down to below $2 again last Friday, $1.84, and then it hit $2.34 this week. That's what looks like around the time that person dumped those calls, and then it's kind of been trending lower ever since. On the month, the high was $2.46, so about that level, you were getting nice, attractive levels, obviously for the 2.5s and even for the 3s and above. So yeah, that guy looks like he missed his opportunity back on August 8th when that was really good covered call selling, trying to make it up, selling some in-the-money calls in January. Mr. Rock Lobster, we've talked about this name a few times. Has it come back on your radar since? Anyone maybe in your pitch chat, talking or trading or asking about Vroom?
Yeah, I still own some of the 2.5s with the long duration. So when I bought them on the volume, and the trade's been a total stinker. I just love the fact that this was a $70 stock and now it's a $2 stock in a year. Like, what did the people at 70 not know and the people at $2 know? It still makes me kind of giggle a little bit. Like, people loved it at 70 and then nobody wants it at 2. So yeah, I can't figure this company out. So it's an interesting one. It has revenue. It looks like it's an ongoing operation, but they can't seem to make any money. It's really weird, but they sell cars, and I guess, selling cars now is a good business, but it hasn't helped this company. I mean, it's basically trading for under the cash they made in their IPO. So, the market's valuing the company literally at 0. So
always a good sign.
Yes, I guess this, unless something changes, it reminds me a lot of some company like something that's trading below the cash it got from its IPO too. So. Just
because it's back below $4 again, don't hold it against me, sir. I found you some in the wild. It exists.
It does exist. Again, it's another one they have revenue too.
We both missed our chance to dump some, let's say, 4.5 calls on this one.
Big shot.
A big moment in the sun. Our shining moment. Yeah. I do love, while all of our audience was dumping 2.5 and 3 calls in Vroom, you were buying them, Mr. Rock Lobster. So you were on the other side of those trades. And I was lauding our audience for dumping some of those, but the Rock Lobster.
Yeah, they were smart.
Apparently choking on those now. But who knows? We shall see. We shall see if this stock can return to its former glory, along with Oatly. Meanwhile, it's time to lay down what we're keeping an eye on for next week. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
Well, MU in the chat says he already bought his calls back that he sold for a nickel. So that's the way to do it. Dump the upside, take them off the table when they're worthless, and then you could live to fight another day. I like it. So well done. Hey, sell some to the Rock Lobster. I hear he's 80-cent bid going out for these calls. Let's go around the horn. Let's go back to Uncle Mike. In addition to paying close attention to Cisco earnings, Mr. Uncle Mike, what is on your radar until we gather here together on Monday? Once again, to battle for the ultimate Sergeant Slaughter prize, sir. Oh, no. He's so angry about the Cisco that he had to go, listeners. So I will just say for Uncle Mike that he is watching a lot of Cisco and also just buy Cisco. That's what he's got going on. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. What about you, sir? What are you keeping an eye on until we can gather here together on Monday's show?
Well, can we break 4,300 SPX and stay there? And can VIX get below 19 before tomorrow? Those are all of the exciting things I have before I talk to you again. Even though I won't be able to talk to you Friday, it'll be next week.
There you go. As you sound like you're falling off your chair there as we head into, unfortunately, listeners, the end of the show. All right, everybody. That music means we are unfortunately done. Uncle Mike had to run, so I will do his plug for him. You know where to go. Mike Tosaw, at Mike Tosaw, Tosaw, all one word, on Twitter is the place to go. To give him a follow. He wants to build up his Twitter following. Give the man a follow. It gives him a warm, fuzzy. And then, of course, head on over to stcharleswealth.com to get your content fix in between episodes of this program. Mr. Rock Lobster, where should folks go if they want to learn more about Land of the Pit?
Yes, go call Ted. Remember, call Ted, 888-TRADE-01. And you can find all of our wonderful products, whether you want education, you want trade ideas, you want daily entertainment. If you like hearing me talk about options and you want to learn, all of those things are here. We, Option Pit, are growing by leaps and bounds, and come on along for the ride.
Come along for the ride in the Land of the Pit. And speaking of rides, you don't have to go anywhere right now, listeners. That's the end of the option block, but we will be back in a little bit for Twifo, all you folks hanging out in the live chat, mocking the Rock Lobster. I'm with you. We'll be back in a little bit. So they tell me, with the once and future Dr. Bix. They told me that last week, too, so don't hold it against me. We shall see. if he has fixed all of his issues over there. But that's the rumor. Once and future Dr. Vic's coming up in a little bit on TWIFO. All you folks listening after the fact, hit next. Back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for Volatility Views. And then after that, getting crazy, getting wild with a little bit of the old options oddities for all you pro folks. And then back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.